Hi, Mandy Evill here, founder and performance and mindset coach at the Infinite Mind Company. And today what I'm going to do is I want to share my 3 current top books to read. But actually, these aren't just books to read, these really are books to study. And it was my mentor, Bob Proctor. Actually, he studied Think and Grow Rich for over 60 years. And not only did that profoundly impact his life, it profoundly impacted the lives of millions of others. So I want to just first of all distinguish the difference between reading and studying. So I know when I was younger, I wasn't a great reader at all. In fact, I'm not sure that I ever read a book. I remember around about 10 years old, about 10 or 11 years old, I was really into horses. I loved my ponies, and I used to draw ponies. I used to go down to the local stables. And so my parents bought me a book, Black Beauty, and never read it. I started to read it, I wanted to read it, but I just couldn't engage with the words on the page. So I wasn't a great reader through into my adulthood, to be fair. I would read some books, but I wasn't a prolific reader at all. So it wasn't really and I wasn't a prolific studier at school. That's the other thing. I wasn't great at school, didn't like studying. And I suppose books and studying sort of they were synonymous with hard work for me. I don't want to do that, don't like it. Although I wanted to learn more things, didn't like the reading. But it was when I started to work with my mentor over 6 years ago now, Bob Proctor, and learned that he'd been reading Think and Grow Rich for 60 years, and not just reading, but studying it. It's like he really taught me how to pick up a book and not just read it, but study it. So lots of people ask me, what are my top or my favorite books? Well, I've got top 3 books that I picked out. I tend to have a pile of books. I've obviously got lots of books in my bookshelf, but I tend to have a pile of books, probably maybe 15 or so, that I have to hand that I can pick up and study at any one time. And 3 of these books I'm going to share with you today, because these are 3 books that are kind of out, actually sitting on my coffee table in my living room, and that's where I do most of my reading. I have my chair there. So these are my current 3 top books that I study. So I've read them, but then I study them. And the difference between reading and studying, because you can read something and it can be, you might have enjoyed the book, you might have had a few aha moments during reading the book, and then the book goes back on the shelf and that's it. Nothing else happens with the book, and actually nothing else happens with you having read the book. So when we talk about, or certainly when I talk about, and I teach my clients this, when we talk about you go on to study, okay, studying is about absorbing the information that's in a book, okay? So not just about reading the words on the page, it's about absorbing them. It's about asking yourself questions about what you're reading. And sometimes there can be just a paragraph, and sometimes even a sentence that I will read over and over and over again so that I can absorb what it's telling me. But I'll ask myself, I certainly write notes in my books, that's for sure. I wouldn't want to be giving away my books because they're full of underlines and quote and notes rather, and different highlights, and they're a bit of a mess, but they're not a mess for me, because that's how I read, that's how I study. And when you're studying a book, when you're really studying a book, you want to ask yourself questions like, well, what does that mean for me? What could I do with that? How could if I was to do this in my life or in my thinking, how would it impact me? And how could I apply it? And what difference would that make for me? Or how could that improve my thinking? And if it improved my thinking this way, how would it then translate into my actions? So it's like integrating. Bottom line is, it's about integrating what you're reading and what you're studying into your thinking, your subconscious mind, because that's where we want it. That is the root of all of our results in our life. It comes from our subconscious mind. Whatever is in your subconscious mind will put your body into a vibration, and it'll also move it into action. All your behaviors, all your actions come from your subconscious mind, most of which is unconscious and you're not aware of it. For example, you're not aware of how to make your heart beat. It just beats, okay? You're not necessarily aware that you go and brush your teeth in the morning. You don't even say, I better brush my teeth. You don't even remind yourself. It's so automatic. So guys, we are on automatic pilot most of the time. So if you want to shift, you want to start to change some of these behaviors, some of this thinking, some of the beliefs. Belief is just an idea and a thought that you've solidified. You've thought it so many times, it's solidified and become a fact. It's become a fact and a reality for you. If you want to start to shift some of these mindset, if you like, then it's not just about reading, it's about studying, okay? Study to implement. That's my motto. Study to implement. Don't just read. So, I've got my 3 books here, okay? So my first book, and this is my top book. So if Bob read Think and Grow Rich for 60 odd years, every single day, and that was, as he called it, his Bible, this is mine. Okay, it's called The Power of Awareness. It's by a guy called Evill. His pen name was Neville. His full name was Neville Goddard. And it's this book. You can see mine is, mine's very tatty. And it's a book that I don't ever put in my bookshelf because it's always out, because I'm always reading it. Now, why this book? The Power of Awareness. Because Neville was a guy, he was around, but say between, I think he was born in the 30s, he was around between the 30s and the 70s. This book was first published in the 50s. He really understood how our mind works, this guy. You can actually see him on YouTube, you can find him on YouTube. There's a lot of his lectures, you can listen to them, okay, on YouTube. He wrote his wisdom, really, his keynote subject was assumption. And though he says the power of awareness, it's really about the law of assumption. And the reason I like this book is because each chapter is literally only 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 pages long. So it's very easy to digest. It's very easy to consume. You don't have to put a marker in and think, because there's a big long chapter. And I love that. I love the ability for me to be able to consume this in really small chunks. And that's every single chapter throughout this. And what happens for me is I will normally, I've read it multiple times, but I'll go to a chapter and I will read a chapter and study a chapter over and over again. It's only a couple of pages long, so it's very, very consumable. This is what a book that I'm studying looks like, okay? That's how it looks like. And I don't necessarily mark it every time I read it, but if something comes out at me again, it's like, didn't see that. I've read that so many times and I still didn't get it at that level, didn't mean that to me. And this is the beauty of our awareness. This is the beauty of persistence. This is the beauty of repetition. And Bob taught me repetition. It was something I used to hate. It's like I only want to do one thing once. Don't want to keep doing it again. But repetition is the mother and the grandfather and all the relatives of learning and application. Because we don't just want to learn it, we want to apply it. And when we apply it, that's when we get the understanding, because we've experienced it. Understanding comes from the experiential application, okay? And that's where we want to go. Because when we're applying it and we're experiencing it, that's where the magic all happens. So this book, Power of Awareness, Neville, is really, he's talking about the power of assumption, the law of assumption. Now, an assumption is accepting something as true without any proof. Now, you probably heard that, you know, in when we have prejudices and discrimination, it's accepting something as true about a group of people or even an individual with no proof. That we assume things. We assume things all the time, but we often will assume bad things, okay? We assume something is true without any physical proof, and often it's a bad thing. Here, in this book, Neville teaches us how to assume, how to live in the law of assumption to create what you want. He was probably the grandfather, if you like, of manifestation. He was the original manifester. You know, manifestation's a big word now. Secret came out in whenever it was, the 80s or 90s or whenever it was. And yeah, everybody was into manifestation. Everybody still is, okay? But this guy was writing about it back in the 50s. And, you know, so he's and there probably is somebody before that. But in terms of modern day, this is the guy that started, you know, manifestation, talking about manifestation. And he actually does use that word in this book from time to time. So, and manifestation is assumption. Comes from the power and the law of assumption. It comes from us. He talks a lot about how we create, who is the creator. We are the creator. We have everything that we need to create within us. We were given that. We have that ability. Every single person has that ability. Everybody is creating every moment of every day when they're awake. Maybe when they're asleep, I don't know that. That's beyond my awareness. Maybe there is some level of manifestation when we're asleep as well. But certainly, every moment we're awake, we're in the realms of manifestation. And what he teaches here is that how to tap into and go into our internal self, okay, which is our mind. That's our internal self. When we go into our mind and we use our innate creativity that we have, and we have innate creativity, every single one of us. It's not about writing and painting and all that kind of creativity. We have the potential within us to create the life that we want, to create the business that we want, to create the relationships that we want. It's in us. Because we're creators, that's what we do. And Neville, the power of awareness, that's what he teaches. But it's very simple steps, very simple understanding. He's actually, you know, probably giving one message, but he gives it in so many different ways that you can't help but get it. So that, and all my clients, this is the book that I tell all my clients to get. This book, and we study this as well. Sometimes I'm with my clients a couple of times a week, and we study and we delve into various principles about how we use our mind and how we can use our mind more effectively. And this book is something that we often delve into because it is so powerful. You want a book to change your life? This one. My number 2 book, very different. It's a very different book, and this is called You Squared. Okay, again, this book was given to me by Bob. He told me very early on, read this book. It's called You Squared. It's by a guy called Bryce Pritchard. Amazing book. Now, the other thing that I like about this book, they're short chapters again. In fact, the book is only 36 pages long. It's 36 pages long, but boy, has it got a punch. I mean, if this is what I call a doing book, you know, you can pick this book up, and you can read it cover to cover. You'll read it in, I don't know, half an hour maybe, and it's done. You can put it away again, but don't do that. This is a doing book. This is what I call a book to do. Okay, so, and again, it's a book that I have studied and studied and studied and studied. All my books that I study look like that. Okay, I only wrote on this the other day again. This is another book to study, but it's to do. Do what he tells you to do. That's the thing about this book. Do what he tells you to do because he's telling you to do stuff. He's giving you some new concepts, some new ideas. He gives you a different way of looking, new perception. Remember, perception is one of our key faculties. I call them mental muscles. It's one of the key mental muscles that we have. So he has you shift your perception on something. And when you do that, it's another book that I study. I've done a course on this actually with some clients. We just go through this book. But you want to ask yourself some really serious questions. It's like, okay, so, what, because he talks here. Let me just get a little bit here. Okay, here we go. This is just one sentence in one particular chapter. He says, U squared, it's the name of the book, which is all about taking and having a quantum leap. And a quantum leap in scientific terms is going from one place to another in the shortest amount of time with the shortest amount of energy. Okay, that's what a quantum leap is. And it happens, shortest amount of time, shortest amount of energy. That's all I can say. It's not progressive. It's like bang, it's done. Okay. And he's, I'm not quite sure how many chapters there are in here. There's quite a few chapters. Each chapter is maybe only 2 pages long, 3 pages long. It's a book of, 37 pages. But here's just one line in this. Just one line that you could study, ask questions on, and implement. Okay, just one line. U squared requires an abrupt change in behavior. He uses beautiful, elegant words like abrupt. He didn't use the word sudden, it's abrupt. He just uses some amazing words. So here's the thing. U squared requires an abrupt change in behavior. An abrupt change in behavior just opens the door to how do I apply that? Okay, so, the first question is, what is an abrupt change of behavior for me? What is an abrupt change of behavior for me? Where could I have an abrupt change of behavior? What am I doing consistently that's getting the same result? So I want to shift that up. It's an abrupt change of behavior. An abrupt change of behavior is this, all right? It's something like this. It's like you normally brush your teeth with your dominant hand. An abrupt change of behavior is brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand. Now, I'm not saying that's going to provide you with any particular result, but that's an abrupt change of behavior. Doing something radically different. So this book is a doing book, guys, okay? Definitely recommend it. You'll find all these books on Amazon. And he calls it here, a high velocity formula for multiplying your personal effectiveness in quantum leaps. It's great, okay? U squared, if you get this book, you have to do the book, all right? Don't just get it to read. Don't do that. It's not worth it. Don't waste your money, okay? It's what I would say. Just do not waste your money just to read it. If you're a person that says, I want more, and I'm prepared to do what it takes, because this book will take you over the edge. This book will take you to jump off the cliff so that you can fly. That's what this book does. It's what it's written for, okay? So that's my book number 2. Now my book number 3, okay, is called Working with the Law, and it's by Raymond Hollywell. Here we go, it looks like this. And this is, again, it's always, all my books have been, not all of them, but a lot of my books were suggested to me. But this is a book that I've studied and I continue to study. It's a book that I'll get up and look for the chapter. Which chapter do I want to read? Which chapter do I want to study? Which is, depending on where I am, which is the most relevant chapter for me. So it's called Working with the Law, okay? Now, I'm going to read the contents of this. How many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, okay? 11 laws here. So he talks about each of these laws. And again, it's a book to study so that you want to be asking yourself, well, how can I apply this again? Okay? It really is these books that I'm going through now are really books that you want to be asking yourself questions about and applying what you're getting from them. Okay. And the thing about the repetition, when we talked about, I just remembered something I wanted to say, that when we talked about repetition before, it's like read this over and over and over and over again. Just pull out a chapter again. All my books have different colours on because I read them so many times. That repetition, the reason repetition is so valuable tool for expanding not just your knowledge, but expanding your awareness, because that's what we want to do. We want to expand our awareness so that we're creating an ever-increasing mind and a way of thinking that is producing ever-increasing results, and bigger and better and more juicy. So that's why we do that. Now, the thing with repetition is that, and this is something that I teach with my clients as well, because when they work with me, there's a lot of repetition, because what happens is that we can read something once and we'll get what we get, even if we're asking questions and we're writing out and we're applying it. And then we can read something again and we'll see something that we didn't see before or read before, and then we'll read it again and again and again and again and again and again. But here's the thing, as our awareness begins to open, as our understanding grows, we see in the words a different perspective from our different level of vibration, if you like. It's like, oh, well, that meant that to me here, but now I'm in a whole new level of vibration. I've got a new level of awareness. Now that means this to me. So it means multiple things. That's why we want repetition, okay? Now, with this book, Working with the Law, okay, he takes us through different laws, universal laws. And listen, guys, we operate within the universal laws. We operate within universal laws, whether we know it, like it or not. That's what we do. That's what we are doing. We're operating for the law of gravity. We all know the law of gravity. We can't see it, but we all know it's there. How do we know it's there? Because it keeps our feet on the ground. We trip and we'll fall because gravity would take us down. So we know it's there. But these laws, albeit invisible, okay, they're part of the truth. Just like gravity is part of the truth, that we live within one of the principle of gravity, we live within the principles of these. So these are like really important. Now, the ones that Raymond Hollywell goes through, I don't know when this was first published, actually. Not quite sure. It was a while back. It was definitely a while back. But I'm not quite sure when. So he talks of the law of thinking. Yeah. There's a principle behind how we think. So the law of thinking, that'd be a good one to know, wouldn't it? And understand and apply. The law of supply. Now, this is one you'll all say, yeah, I know that one. Law of attraction. It's really interesting how he talks about the law of attraction. Everybody thinks they know all about the law of attraction. Law of attraction actually is a secondary law. The law of vibration is a primary law. But he talks about vibration and attraction as one. Okay, so the law of attraction. I think this was first written. I think it was written back in the 50s as well. This is pre-secret stuff. The law of receiving. Isn't that lovely? How well do you receive? Okay. The law of increase. There is a law of increase. There's a law about increase, huh? Well, we want to increase our finances. We want to increase our relationships, the quality of our relationships. We want to increase our business. We want to increase the quality of our life. There's a law about it, okay? And if we understand the law and apply it, we have to apply. Guess what happens? We're working with that law. We're not working against it. 9 times out of 10, most people are working against all of the laws, which is crazy, really, because you wouldn't jump off a building and expect to be able to fly. No, you because gravity will pull you down. But most of the time, most people work against these laws. Okay, law of receiving, law of increase. It's great, isn't it? Law of compensation. Yeah, there is a law about compensation. And what we get is in relation to what we give. We don't get back what we give, but it's in relation to what we're giving. Law of non-resistance. How many of you want to know that? Yeah. How many of you want to know that? Absolutely, 100%. Because most people resist. Don't want to, but they do it habitually. They don't want to do it, but they do it habitually. Okay, so the law of non-resistance. The law of forgiveness, very, very important law. The law of sacrifice. The law of obedience. And finally, the law of success. Listen, we've, all of these books actually, we have studied, we have all my clients, we have a book club. We study these. We study these as a group, and certainly I study these on my own as well. So Working with the Law, it's my last book. So guys, they're my 3 books. They're my recommended books. And what I would like to do right now is to invite you to come and join us in our Facebook group. We have a beautiful Facebook group with like-minded people. I'm often going in there. We do training in there. I do some training in there. I usually do 5 days of training. We're always putting in there tips and tools of how to keep your mind in the right place. You can always reach out as well to other people. You can reach out to me through the Facebook group as well. So come and join us on the Facebook group. It will either be in the comments below or in my bio above. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.